What is up, Sooner Nation? I am Casey Mallon, and you are now, come on, in a Sooner state of mind. Make sure you like and subscribe on Apple Podcast and Spotify. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for all your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. With up to the minute odds, stats, and trends, you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or your mobile devices. Head to BetOnline today to become part of the team, and remember to use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Sooner state of mind, family. What is good? Hopefully, you had a relatively chill Ides of March. Well, hopefully, it was at least better than Julius Caesar's Ides of March. If you're here, I guess it did. Anyway, on today's show, we've got a lot of info to get to. I know it's hard to believe, but the first week of spring ball is already in the books, and we will check in to see how it went. OU's Pro Day is also in the books, and a couple of Sooners definitely made money. Speaking of making money, Happy New Year. The new NFL league year has begun, which means the beginning of the free agent frenzy. And there was some big money and big moves for some former Sooners. We will get into all of that as well. And more change coming up for the upcoming college football season. The 12-team playoff is already on its deathbed. What? EA Sports College Football 25 is even closer to reality. Oh, baby, it's going to happen. And both good and bad news for Sooners hoops as it relates to March Madness. But let's go ahead and start things in the Pac 12. Pac 12 has their new commissioner. Teresa Gould is set to start her 2-year run of the two-member Pac 12 conference. Gould is expected to pick up the pieces of the Conference of Champions after it was left in shambles. The prestige, the honor, the tradition. Bye, Felicia. I wonder why. We'll find out. Gould will become the first ever Power 5 conference female commissioner. That's rad. And will lead the Pac 12 conference after being promoted as her previous held role of Pac 12 deputy commissioner. Gould takes over for George Kliavkoff. Kliavkoff is out after what had been labeled as a catastrophic 973-day tenure. Couldn't even make it to 1,000 days. Wow. And you never want catastrophic following any type of work that you've done. That's bad. But we can see, and you wonder why. Well, it culminated with the failed Pac 12 media rights negotiation. Old Georgie boy had a proposed deal with Apple that was rotten to the core. And that rotten deal came on the heels of another terrible media rights deal negotiated by Larry Scott. The previous media deal for the Pac 12 was not included on DirecTV. Now, in the Los Angeles area, most sports fanatics subscribe to DirecTV because it had the MLB package, the NFL Sunday ticket, et cetera, et cetera. Either way, though, that Pac 12 media was not accessible to DirecTV customers in the Los Angeles area. Big problem with that, the University of Southern California, the University of California, Los Angeles did not have their games broadcast in the LA area if you were on DirecTV. I wonder why the conference failed. Back-to-back terrible leadership. It's left us with a 2-school Pac 12. consisting of Oregon State and Washington State. Big Beaver fan, big Coug fans left holding the bag. Now, those two schools will compete in the West Coast Conference in most sports, along with the scheduling partnership in football with the Mountain West. That's pretty cool. And maybe they'll try to lure some of those Mountain West teams in because NCAA bylaws allow a conference a 2-year grace period in which it can exist without the minimum number of schools. I think the minimum is 7. So we will see what happens with that. That grace period starts this year, 24-25 academic year. So we will see what happens with that, but I'm not too worried about it. I mean, it is a total bummer, but I feel like mega conferences are right around the corner. So I don't think it's going to matter long term for these two schools. The ever-changing landscape of college athletics is definitely headed for uncharted waters, but don't fret. Your seat back can be used as a flotation device in case of emergency. And I think that's what we have here for the Conference of Champions. Speaking of that constant evolution, college football is considering more big changes. Starting this season, college teams will have access to in-game footage through tablets on the sidelines and during halftime. Coaches will also be able to communicate directly with players through a one-way in-helmet communication systems. This seems like a no-brainer to me. Why not use the technology that you have at your disposal? If you have it, use it. You don't have to do it. It doesn't have to be exclusive of that, but let's have it. Let's work it out. Both of these technologies are used at the NFL level, seem to be going pretty well there, and both were tested this past bowl season. The ACC approved both changes earlier this month as the conference awaited the national verdict. College will also add a 2-minute warning. Do my best Booger McFarland here. The clock will automatically stop for a timeout with 2 minutes left before halftime and before the end of the game, just like the NFL. That means when there's 2 minutes left, there's a timeout. Seems simple and pretty straightforward, but I kind of think this is a good thing, so I'm for it. Now, all these rule recommendations must be approved by the NCAA Playing Rules Oversight Panel, which is scheduled to discuss the football proposals April 18th. They don't even have a committee. It's just a panel. What's the difference between a committee and a panel? I don't know. Sound like a bunch of nerds to me, but hopefully they give the okay to those changes. Because there's even more changes ahead for college football. Mentioned on his deathbed, the upcoming 12-team playoff. We hardly even knew ya. The college football playoff has a new deal set to begin in 2026. Heather Dinich and Pete Thamel of ESPN reported that the 10 FBS conferences and Notre Dame have agreed to the next college football playoff contract, and that the new agreement will bring the sport's postseason much closer to an expected 14-team field. The memorandum of understanding guarantees that the field will have at least 12 teams in 2026 and beyond, but sources indicate there is a strong preference for a 14-team field. That field will include the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and the next 9 highest-ranked teams. College football playoff will be expanding to 12 teams for the 2024 season after having a 4-team field since 2014. One notable development is the lack of an automatic bye for the SEC and Big Ten champions. They wanted a bye going into that. The committee was reportedly considering granting the champions from those conferences an automatic bye if the field were to expand to 14 teams. Additionally, the leagues were pushing for 4 automatic bids in the field, but that was also not included in the report. I wonder why. I think we're going to get to the bottom of this, people. Stick with me here. Among the changes in the new contract will be the financial structure. There you go. The SEC and Big Ten will be receiving a significantly higher share than the other conferences. The financial distribution for the expected 14-team playoff will look radically different than its playoff predecessor. On an annual basis, for example, the Big Ten and SEC will be making more than $21 million per school, a number that's up from the nearly $5.5 million the Power 5 leagues are currently getting paid. Oh, they want 4 teams in because it's 21 mil per team. It's all making sense. Damel and Dinich also reported that the ACC's payout will be $13 million per school, while the Big 12's payout will be $12 million. And Notre Dame will also get $12 million, while the Group of 5 is expected to get a whopping $1.8 million payout. Now you see why OU and Texas are going to the SEC. Now you see why all the teams jumped ship from the Pac-12. And I would not be surprised if Notre Dame finally wants to jump on board to the Big Ten or the SEC. That is a lot of significant cash. Maybe that makes it worth it to join a conference. Now, instead of the bye, I would like to see these top teams get a home playoff game. How rad would that be? I think most programs having the bye is nice, but I think they would rather get that money coming in. They have to distribute it through the conference. Not a big deal, but that is a lot of cash. I don't know what ultimately happens with the conference championships. Do we still need them since all these teams are going to get in? Maybe it's just a regular season deal, and then we go from there. There will still be some moving parts on that thing, but it's always about the money. Even when they say it's not about the money, it's about the money. Now, the contract will reportedly have a look-in clause for 2028 that will examine if any monetary distribution changes will be needed. The big guys want even more. Are we going to see a 16-team playoff? 20? This thing is going to be awesome. People are going to be eating this 12-team up. I can see it jumping, especially with the crazy amount of dollars that is going to come in from it. These changes will be based on a conference's performance in the playoff, as well as any potential realignment that could further change the landscape of the sport. Mega conferences. Mega. The 2024 format will feature the top 5 ranked conference champions, and the remaining slots will be filled by at-large teams. There you have it. From the real world to the digital world, real rosters are coming to EA Sports College Football 25. EA Sports announced that more than 10,000 athletes have opted into being featured in the upcoming game. Insider Matt Brown noted the number represents approximately 90% of eligible athletes who could sign on, underscoring how quickly EA Sports has mobilized efforts when it comes to including current players. Oh yeah, get them in so we can get this game out so we can make money. EA Sports Vice President of Business Development Sean O'Brien said the company decided on the $600 figure by studying agreements in place for other sports games, including Madden. This is a huge step, according to Adam Rittenberg, for the company, as it brings back the once popular video game, about to be the most popular video game. Said 10,000 college football players have already agreed to be in the game. One notable holdout, and that appears to be Texas redshirt freshman Arch Manning, the greatest quarterback to ever play, the savior, the guy, blah, 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 whatever you want to call him, fine. Manning, according to Rivals.com's Anwar Richardson, did not want to be in the video game. Instead, he's focused on playing football on the field. What a pud. Inning sounds like the guy who asks the professor for more homework, or the guy that narks on the other kids for talking while teaches out of the classroom. Brother, playing football on the field, what do you got to do? You take your $600, you're in the game. Who cares? Unless he's trying to work some kind of other crazy deal, which I would not doubt. But come on, what a buzzkill, dork. And I confess, it feels gross to talk about Arch Manning in any other context than seeing him get destroyed by a Sooners defender, which hopefully is right around the corner. I think it is. So you know what? I need a palate cleanser to get the Manning out of here. How about Pro Day? Monday, March 12th was the Sooners Pro Day. Oh, you had 12 players participate. They were all looking to improve their draft stock. 32 NFL teams also had reps in attendance. And some good stuff was reported by a lot of these guys. Stoops looked great. Guyton, as we know, Laulu was making waves there too. Stogg showing what he could do. Rouse looking better. Rame wasn't a participant there. We still don't know what was going on with that. Bothroyd, all the dudes getting done, trying to improve that draft stock. It does look like, though, the only player to hear their name called on day one will be Tyler Guyton. But the Sooners definitely expect to have more players join Guyton on days 2 and 3 of the upcoming NFL draft. And that is the NFL draft, April 25th through the 27th, coming to you live from Detroit Rock City. No word yet on if Kid Rock will be in attendance while drinking a Bud Light, but he just might bought to the dabba dang a dang diggy diggy diggy, said the boogie, said up, jump the boogie. I'm not saying Kid Rock is Bob Dylan, but I'm definitely saying Kid Rock is no Bob Dylan, okay? Go out there, listen to some Bob Dylan. It will help you. Now, speaking of the NFL draft, a handful of former Sooners that were drafted made some news last week as free agency opened, which signaled the beginning of the new league year. Offensive lineman Cody Ford, he re-signed with the Bengals on a 1-year extension. Former Bengal Joe Mixon looked like he was going to be released, but then he was traded to the Houston Texans. Totally stoked about that. Since being drafted in 2017, Mixon has had 4,000-yard seasons, including 2023, had just over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. And if contract details are your thing, Mixon signed a 2-year, $19,750,000 contract with the Texans, including a pretty righteous $13 million guaranteed, an average annual salary of just under $10 million a year. Like I said, I think this is a great fit for Mixon. You put him on a team that's young and up and coming. We saw CJ Stroud last year. He looks to be ascending to be a top playmaker in the NFL. Tons of receivers. D'Amico Ryans is really putting his stamp on this team, building up the defense too. Got a lot of talent, and running the ball is something they really struggled with last year. So hopefully Mixon can get in there and change all that. And I think he's going to be a great weapon on that team, and I'm stoked to see them play. And speaking of stoked to see them, the new Texans uniforms leaked on the Reddits today, and they look pretty good. Get out there and check them out if you haven't already seen them. I'm stoked on them. I'm also stoked. Hollywood Brown has a new home. The former Sooner, Raven, and Cardinal has flown the coop and has landed in Kansas City on a 1-year deal worth about $7 million. Great value for the Chiefs here. And $7 million is nothing to scoff at, but even better than the cash for Hollywood is the opportunity to play with Patrick Mahomes. If he can get healthy, he's going to be flying. They have a lot of stuff over the top. That's also going to open it underneath for Kelsey. Oh, man. And Rice, hopefully open up that run game. Use Brown in a lot of ways. I think this revitalizes his career, and I think he's going to be scary good in that KC offense. And it didn't really take much to get him there. Brown revealed he got a text from Chiefs head coach Andy Reid that said, Hollywood, think red today. KC red with diamonds. I guess that text was enough to seal the deal. But the crown jewel of Oklahoma Sooners in this free agency period, that's right, Mr. Baker Mayfield. Baker coming off a season with a Pro Bowl MVP, an NFC South division title, and a playoff win over those Eagles. The Bucs decided they wanted to lock Baker up. Baker signed a 3-year, $100 million contract with the Bucs. That is what I am talking about, baby. Almost $29 million in a signing bonus, $50 million guaranteed. Do the math, people. That's an average annual salary at $33,333,333. I did the math for you. I didn't do the math. I wrote it down. Good for Baker. He deserves every penny. He's bounced back from just some awful situations since he's been in the pros, been with a couple dumpster fire organizations. He's finally getting some continuity with the Bucs, although he did lose his offensive coordinator. But Tampa also got Mike Evans re-signed. They got Godwin there, lots of weapons, and they look to build off a very successful 2023 season. Like to see Baker somewhere where he was wanted. He's deserved this. I think he can lead them where they want to go. I think he's still getting better as a quarterback, and I think that comfort level will bring his game up even more. So we here are completely stoked for Bake. Congratulations, my brother. You deserve it. That's enough of that pro business. Let's get back to school. No, not the 1986 Rodney Dangerfield Classic. Back to school, where Dangerfield became a student athlete, and on the back of his death-defying triple Lindy dive helped the dive team win the dive competition. Not technically a spoiler, since the movie is almost 40 years old, but get hip, nerds. It's a classic. Either way, let's get back to actual school and real student athlete stuff. There had been a limit of 110 student athletes who may engage in practice activities before the school's first day of classes or before the 5th day before the school's first game, whichever occurred earlier. That's all going to change this year for the 2024 season. According to Yahoo Sports' Ross Dellinger, the NCAA is issuing a blanket waiver for FBS and FCS teams to increase the preseason practice fall camp roster from 110 to 120 players. Why not? We're doing NIL. Let all these kids get a piece. Might as well have bigger rosters, especially since they're staying in school longer. Gives them more practice. Let them do it. Who cares? It's 10 players, right? Big deal. It'll take effect for this upcoming season, but the Football Oversight Committee, Football Oversight has a committee. The other guys just had a panel. What's up? And the D1 Council will consider a permanent policy this summer. Go ahead and book it. Just do it. Why would you not? Doesn't make any sense. Speaking of beginning, the Sooners began spring ball practice on Monday, March 11th. They have 118 players on their roster, including 35 mid-year enrollees who joined the program in January. Of those 35 newcomers, 22 are freshmen, baby. We're churning that roster. 11 offensive, 10 defensive, and a kicker, and 13 transfers, 9 offensive, 3 defensive, and a kicker. These newcomers, more incoming freshmen, relying less on the transfer portal, more on the recruiting. Another year of BV and co doing their thing, really making this roster and program look and feel like he wants it to. And I couldn't be more stoked about that because I love what he's doing. I love what the Sooners are doing. I love everything about it. I'm a sicko, but that's why we're here, right? It is Sooner State of Mind anyways. Come on now. Now, the Sooners returned four offensive players who started at least 6 games last year. We're talking Sawchuk, Farouk, Andrell Anthony, Nick Anderson. Hopefully, Anthony is fully recovered from that injury, and hopefully Sawchuk can just stay healthy. We saw in flashes when he was feeling good, he was running good, powerful, fast, the whole nine. So hopefully we can get a full season of that. And Farouk, one more year to really hone in, to really get better. We saw this guy shake the first defender every time, get the mental game a little right, improve on everything else, a little more route running, all the other things that he can get better on. And this is going to be a dynamic receiving core. They're bringing back almost 70% of the receiving yards, including 4 of their top 5 pass catchers. 38 catches, almost 800 yards. Nick Anderson ranked 5th nationally with his 21 yards per reception average. And no Big 12 or SEC player returning in 2024 had as many receiving TDs as Anderson in 23, and that was 10 of those bad boys. 10 of them, including the game winner against Texas. 2 asses. Boom. Come on now. Sooners will, though, have to replace the 84 catches, 962 yards, and 10 touchdowns from Drake Effer Stoops. You don't replace a guy like Stoops. You hope to replace the production. I don't know if it can be done, but there is a man that wants the job, and his name is Deion Burks. The Purdue transfer on Purdue last year had 7 TDs and just over 600 yards. If he can do that, get that kind of production on Purdue, I think he can hit those numbers and go beyond them on this Sooner squad. And all anyone around the program can talk about is Burke's speed. Said this guy is flying. He'll do Stoops' job with a little more speed. I don't know if he'll be as good as a receiver as Stoops was, but he's definitely bringing the turbo button, and I am stoked about it. I think he's going to be a great addition. He's already working with JFA. He's got a lot of weapons on that squad, so I'm excited to see. We're not going to have to wait much longer. Now you flip it over defensively. OU is returning almost 80% of its tackle production, including its top 6 tacklers. 7 defensive players who started at least 6 games last year are coming back. We're talking Downs, Stutz, McCullough, Canick, Woody, Billy, and Gentry Williams. Welcoming back almost 80% of their TFLs, over 70% of the sacks, 85% of their interceptions, 65% of the QB hurries, and 92% of the pass breakups. Bowman and Stutz were first-team All-Big 12 performers, and Bowman, first-team All-American. Downs, second-team All-League in each of his last 2 years. But what I like most about this is the guys that could have bounced to the NFL and decided they wanted to come back and be part of that. Downs, Stutz, Billy, Woody Washington. A lot of these cats and some of the big boys up front, they all wanted to come back and be part of this. This is year 3 of Venables' system. These guys are going to know it like the back of their hand. They're going to be able to teach it to the younger players, but they're not going to be thinking they're just going to be playing. They're going to be playing fast with bad intentions, and I am here for it. You add Stone, Jackson, Nigel into this mix, and a beefed up PJ. Oh my God. We are getting some good stuff going down for these Sooners. And not only that, these cats have been messing with Schmitty, and they're all getting bigger, putting on that muscle. Kip Lewis, he's up 8 pounds. Stutz is up 5 pounds. R. Mason Thomas, he's up to 246. Connie Walker's up 5 more pounds to 208. Robert Spears Jennings up to 219. When you mess with Schmitty, you get the results. I cannot wait to see these cats out there doing their damn thing. And we don't have to wait much longer. Just over 4 weeks, 33 days, or 789 hours, whatever you want to call it, until the OU spring game on April 20th. Come on, baby. Woo! Getting fired up. But before the spring game is the biggest spring fling in all of sports. That's right, it is March Madness. But for the Sooner men, it will be only March Sadness. The Sooners were the last team out of the 68. And before the selection was happening, I felt it could go either way. But the more that I saw, I thought they would for sure be in. When you look at some of the other teams with similar records, or even some of the teams the Sooners beat in Big 12 play, it's kind of a head scratcher that OU was not invited into the tourney. They did have some opportunities, though. On one hand, it does make sense because every time they did have an opportunity to prove that they belonged, they just came up a little bit short. Against Houston a couple weeks ago, just short. Got some big wins, but then lost to Texas to finish it up. And then getting bounced from the Big 12 tourney first game, none of those helped. I know they were banged up injury-wise, but I still think they probably did enough to get in and probably should have been in there, especially how tough the Big 12 conference was this year, but they got some big wins. I still kind of feel like they did get hosed, but if you handle your business, then you don't have to worry about someone else making the decision for you. They can't deny you when you get those. So a handful more, they'd been there. They're not. Now, they did get the much less coveted invite to the NIT tournament, but the Sooners program declined that. So that's it. Basketball is done for the men. Lots of questions with the program moving forward. For me, I would like to see the current staff get a little more time. It would be nice to have some cohesion and have this team finally take that next step. Man, it has been a while. But headed to the SEC next year, I don't want to start over with a new staff. And on paper, that actually looks to be a much easier basketball conference, or at least somewhat easier. Big 12 was brutal this year, and I expect most of those teams to do very well in the tourney. Unfortunately, the Sooners won't be one of them. The Lady Sooners, however, have a completely different reality. Jenny Baranczyk has her Big 12 champion Sooners as a 5th seed, set to take on the 12th seed Florida Gulf Coast Eagles. This is not a regular 12 seed. The Eagles finished conference play undefeated and were 29-4 on the season. They're riding a 22-game win streak into the tourney. Third straight appearance, the Eagles knocked off Washington State last year and Va Tech the year before that. This is a good basketball team. So hopefully the Sooners don't sleepwalk into the tourney and get bounced early. I think that's a pretty brutal draw with FGCU. But if they can win that game and then win their next game, it's a big if. If they do that, it is likely setting up a Sweet 16 matchup. South Carolina. Just brutes. E2 Brute. That's an Ides of March callback. Julius Caesar. I love a good callback. Yes, I do. All right, people, let's get stoked. The easiest way to do so is to make sure you like and subscribe to Sooner State of Mind on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And if you do that, you will not miss any of the good stuff. Also, head on over to Bleav.com. That's BLEAV.com. Go to shows, type in Sooner State of Mind, and you are locked, my friends. We have a ton of great content. Every team, every topic, everywhere, Bleav.com. And if you want to watch Sooner State of Mind, head on over to YouTube and search the Football Dudes. We are there. Once you find us, go ahead and like and subscribe there as well. Sooner State of Mind is brought to you by Bet Online. My name is Casey Mallon, and I am in a Sooner State of Mind.